He's saying things he's always said things to rile people up, to create controversy, because he's a clown and he thinks that that's what gets people to pay attention to him. LeBron, I honestly think, should have just let it go. But we all know that, LeBron, while not as thin-skinned to say like KD, LeBron is a little thin-skinned and can, poke back at people who poke at him. He takes it personally. I get it. And that's part of what drives him and has made him such a great player. I mean, arguably he's the GOAT. And so I don't know. I think the initial wrong is Stephen A. Smith. But I think Braun may have overreacted a little bit and made it bigger than it needed to be.
Welcome to another episode of Hoopsology's in the Lab. I am one of your hosts, Justin Goodrum, joined by Allan Muntzler. How's it going, Allan?
It's going well. My voice sounds a little hoarse. I'm still recovering from a travel bug I picked up while on vacation, but I'm still here, and ready to go. How are you, Jeff?
We're good. I appreciate you coming on. You may notice one of our co-hosts, and I would call him the point guard of In the Lab, Matt Thomas. He has welcomed twins into the world, so he'll be taking a little bit of break from the podcast, but he should be returning soon. So don't fret. Matt will be back. He is just welcoming his twins. He currently has 4 children, so congratulations to Matt. I know he's enjoying that time as well. So just props to him and congrats to not only him, but his family as well.
Yeah, here. I can't even imagine having twins and then having 4. He's got his hands full, but I think it's awesome.
Yeah. Absolutely. A couple of housekeeping things before we jump into the topics. As always, please like and subscribe to either our podcast feed of your choice. So that's Apple Podcasts, that's Spotify, and then also YouTube as well. So you'll get all the In the Lab podcasts, plus you'll get all of our guest interviews spanning from 2021. So we have journalists, book interviews, documentary reviews, documentary interviews. There's plenty of content just to keep you busy, all free on our YouTube channel. Just like and subscribe, and you get all that content directed to you. All right, Allan, let's jump into it. First topic is the announcement of Carmelo Anthony being inducted to the Hall of Fame. So this was first told by Shams Charania from ESPN that Carmelo Anthony has been notified that he's been elected to the Naismith Basketball Hall of Fame. He's been with a bunch of different teams: the Nuggets, the Knicks, Thunder, Rockets, Portland Trail Blazers, and Los Angeles Lakers. Just a great resume just in terms of not only the NBA, but college and Olympic play as well. So he's first ballot. I think he was a lock. I know some people hold it against him not winning a championship, but I mean, if you know basketball, he's in. As a Hall of Famer is pretty blatantly obvious. That's kind of your thoughts on Carmelo Anthony. I know a pretty polarizing player, I think, throughout his career. Just kind of your thoughts on kind of his career now and his post-career, really getting into the media market and hosting a podcast of his own with a former guest of ours, Kazim Famude. He was actually a guest on our podcast a couple of years ago, and now they host his own podcast along with Melo as well, and Monica McNutt. So that's kind of your thoughts on Carmelo Anthony being inducted into the Hall of Fame.
I mean, Justin, well deserved. I think you said it all. I mean, if you look at the college resume, sure, 1 year at Syracuse, but he brought a national championship to Syracuse of all places. You look at his Olympic career. I mean, prior to kind of LeBron, sticking around so long and doing what he did, I mean, Carmelo was probably the top Olympian we've had before then. I think arguably, just on so many teams, gold medals. And then you look at his NBA career. I think he took, he was the first of the big guys to make the playoffs in Denver. Yeah, he maybe, didn't leave in the best terms or what have you. But he gave Knicks fans some hope. I think injuries really derailed the Knicks and team construction, as we all are aware of. I think it's well deserved. First ballot for sure. he was definitely a really good, great scorer. Um, uh, just and not necessarily like he wasn't like a three baller guy. He wasn't throwing up tons of threes. He was really like this kind of old school small forward, uh, power forward hybrid scorer that you don't really see anymore. Um, so it's well deserved. Uh, I think you can also say, he's very socially active. Probably um, one of the earlier players to really become more socially active. He was part of protest. He was really ahead of the curve with that. So kudos to Carmelo. Happy for him. No, I have nothing bad to say about him. I think he had a great career.
So I want to get your opinion on this and then we'll move on. What's going to be maybe like 10 years from now? Right now, basically, there's drafts that I think basketball fans hold very dearly. And I think with the 2003 draft, I mean, that's personal to me because I was in high school. So this is very prevalent. And you take a look at players drafted in that draft class: LeBron, Melo, Bosh, Dwayne Wade. A personal favorite. He's not a Hall of Famer by any means, but Kurt Heinrich had his jersey in college. David West, Boris Diaw. I mean, this is a phenomenal draft. Just curious, do you think this draft's going to live in the memory of fans like 10, 20 years from now? Is this going to be kind of a heralded kind of ushering in a new era for the NBA, or do you think it's kind of going to be overshadowed by just LeBron James being drafted during this year, you think?
I think that 2003 draft will be one of the great drafts. And is that the question you're asking?
Yeah,
That
just
Yeah, I think that it's right up there with me. I think already it's right up there with 1984. I mean, when you talk about great drafts, 84, 2003, um, spring to mind right away.
Yeah, no, totally agree. Let's move on to, I don't know, some angering news, unfortunately, and this continues with John Morant. The Memphis Grizzlies guard has been fined $75,000 for twice making inappropriate gestures on the playing court. This is the press release we got from the NBA. It was announced by Joe Dumars, executive vice president, head of basketball operations. Morant was previously warned by the league office that this gesture could be interpreted in a negative light, so he was warned. The gestures were made by Morant during the Grizzlies' 110 one-away victory over the Miami Heat on April 3rd. Just your thoughts on first, is this a big deal, no deal? Is the NBA overreacting here? Or do you think this is super serious and this is kind of Morant, going back, kind of not learning from lessons past here?
I think the NBA is overreacting because, as we've seen, if you're active on social, you've seen everybody posting videos of literally every player in the NBA making a similar gesture. It's it. I just it. Now look, he was warned not to do it anymore. Did he did he flaunt that warning? People are like, he flaunted that warning. I didn't even think he was thinking about it. I think it's such a natural reaction in game. And the last thing that guy's thinking about while trying to bring his team to a win and stay in the playoffs is, making, pissing off the NBA and making finger finger guns. I think it's people are blowing it out of proportion because of the gun incidents. Um, I I just don't have a. It just seems like a overreaction. Unless they're going to start finding everybody who does it and say we're going to ban doing that. It's just. I mean, it's like the Bullets changing their name to the Wizards. It's an overreaction to just stuff that doesn't even matter.
The play devil's advocate. I mostly agree with you. I even questioned putting this in the rundown, but I think it was a discussing point, so I just thought I'd bring it up. And I just want to kind of get your thoughts because this is the first time on this podcast I've talked to you about John Morant in particularly. So I think that's why I decided to keep it on here, just as a finality. But because what's your thoughts on John Morant overall? Just his mistakes, because I remember just, my girlfriend and I were going to the mall. I'm on social media. All of a sudden, I see John Morant has been suspended. It's just, I see this guy has so much potential. You're talking about, players. We've had this discussion before of the faces of the league. I think John Morant fits in that category in terms of for possibly being a good candidate for that, but yet he's had a troubled past. So I'm just wondering with this, kind of plays into that narrative. What's kind of your thoughts on him? Not in terms of not only on the basketball court and his pursuit of a title, which I'm sure is important to him, but just kind of his overall career in terms of being that candidate of being the face of the league. Because I think this season he's kind of been erased from that discussion. Even though I don't think he's past his prime, or I don't think he has the ability to still be in that discussion.
Yeah, I say like you talk like legacy. I mean, I don't know. Like, didn't Scottie Pippen get busted for having a gun in the back of his car? Dennis Rodman had the same sort of thing happen. I mean, first of all, I mean, I know you're not listening, but if you are, like, just get a bodyguard to carry your guns for you.
That's what I'm saying.
You don't need to carry it, man. It only gets you in trouble. Um, uh, and it seems like a kind of a poser thing to do because we know you're not like that guy. You're just a guy playing around with guns because he can. Um, uh, I I I don't think it's beyond him, but I think what he needs to kind of regain that visibility is A, to stay healthy, which despite the suspensions, he's also failed to stay healthy the past few seasons.
Yeah.
Um, and so stay healthy and you know, uh make a good playoff run. That erases everything. You make a good playoff run and people won't remember that stuff. Um it, this year I just don't think it's going to happen for them unless the new coach, forgive me, I don't know how to pronounce his last name, um, but he's the first Finnish coach we've had in the NBA.
Oh wow.
But uh, if he can somehow will them to performing well in the playoffs, and Ja can get a good run together, awesome. But it might be another couple of years, or it might be a change of scenery too. I'm not ruling that out for the Memphis Grizzlies. Do they go for a teardown? Um, if so, as Houston might be interested in Jaren Jackson Jr., but anyway. Um, so
So yeah, no, it's just it's interesting with him because I still feel he has a lot of relatability to the younger fans, and I still think that potential is there despite his past. I agree with you with the bodyguard thing. You got the money, let's hire your five goons in front of you. Let them hang on all the stuff. Don't let anybody approach you, and I think you'll be good. So I agree with you on that. I want to move, and it kind of this is the bulk of our conversation. We haven't had you on, Allan, just because you've been overseas. And kind of want to get your thoughts on kind of anything that's on your mind within the NBA. I mean, the biggest controversy we have is the whole Stephen A. Smith, LeBron debacle. We've also had the MVP race that's heating up as well. Kind of in terms of teams, jockeying for a position for the playoffs, we had teams, but being accused of tanking. Of course, that the face of the league discussion that's been picked up, but particularly with Anthony Edwards. This kind of your thoughts on what you're seeing here, positively, negatively, anything that's troubling you, anything that's got you excited as we head into it, especially because March Madness is winding down. That usually means the NBA is picking up in terms of momentum headed towards the playoffs.
yeah, I mean, first I'll just say congratulations to the Houston Cougars for making the Final Four. I'm really excited to watch that game on Saturday. Um, yeah, when I think about this season, one of the things that kind of stands out to me, Justin, and tell me if you agree here, but I think it's been such a great season. There's been so many really positive, good storylines. There's been so many great games. Everybody is sleeping for whatever reason. Everybody is sleeping on the Oklahoma City Thunder, and I don't get it. I mean, you're seeing like national TV people saying like, "Well, I don't trust them in the playoffs." I'm like thinking, "What are you talking about? These guys are like so dominant, and they've got that double big lineup that they run with Hardy and Chet that is just swallowing up anybody on the interior." Um, uh, it's and Houston's kind of stumbled into that on accident by doing Shingun and even Adams at the same time. It's kind of like a throwback to the old days of the NBA. I am loving the end of this season. I think it's just been Awesome. I mean, what do you think, Justin? What do you think of this season?
It's been tough. I think in terms of like the substance, I agree with you. I think in terms of your general fan base knowing that, I think what you're saying, I think that's a failure on the NBA, in my opinion. Not by the players, but the organization itself and the media partners. Because I don't think if you talk to a lot of fans, they would agree with you. And I don't think you're wrong. And that's a concern because with the content being as good as you watch a lot of basketball, and I've always said this, you know more basketball than Matt and I. And for you saying that, and I think for your casual NBA fan not to know that this season has been a good season, that is a massive concern. I think that speaks to why the NBA is not resonating with people. And I think that's a huge problem in terms of your media partners, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, how can you trash OKC? How can you trash Shea when you watch him play? It's amazing what he does. It's Jordan-esque, the moves that he makes, the pump fakes. People accuse him of being like a foul merchant or whatever, but I don't see that. I mean, if you want to stop him shooting free throws, don't foul him.
Yeah.
I just don't get it. I don't get what the media partners are thinking. I don't know why the NBA itself keeps promoting teams that aren't that great, but because they still have superstars on them, or superstars of yore, they need to embrace the new. And you started to see that a little bit here and there. I just don't think it's caught on yet.
So again, just the bring the other side of the argument. If the Thunder, since they are a small market team, if they are going to bring smaller ratings, and then you have like a Lakers game, and the Lakers are relevant, they're the fourth seed, so they're not terrible. I mean, are they going to win the title? I think probably not, especially with Luka's troubles, but I was high on the Lakers, a month ago or so. But the Lakers are still relevant. Same thing with the Warriors. They are in the playoff hunt, and that means that's very attractive for your TV partners compared to taking a chance on a Thunder team, in which I don't think from this your casual standpoint, SGA has resonated with your casual sports fan. So I think that's where it's just like it's tough. And I think with the Rockets too, I think honestly the Rockets haven't even been discussed. I think that's an amazing story. They're a second seed, and especially with everything that they've gone through, and really they have not been mentioned at all. So I think there's a balance in terms of presenting your mainstays as well as presenting the new school of the league. And I think there's a balancing act there. But I think you're right. I think the balance has definitely shifted to just presenting what's safe. And that's the Lakers and the Warriors. And I think that plays into Jokic not getting his due and being just his generational talent. I mean, how many MVPs is this guy in contention to winning right now? And yet, if you cast your person down the street that's as a sports fan, I don't know if they even know who Jokic is, to be honest.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's crazy.
it's crazy. And you think about it, and you think this guy has won. He won 3 out of 4. He was in contention this year.
Yeah.
I think Shea gets it, but he's right there as the cloak of number 2 that you've probably ever seen. I think it's gonna be a really tight race. Um, I, I mean, it's one thing to be an MVP candidate, but very few players make the top 3 MVP candidates year after year after year. And you know, Jokic is one of them. In the mid 2000s, 2015, 2010s, James Harden was a guy who was always in that top MVP consideration. He only came out with one, but it's just weird to me that nobody recognizes this generational, like, I mean, the passes he throws, the numbers he puts up, the way he makes it look effortless.
Yeah.
He's an amazing player to watch. He's a fun player to watch. That's what I don't get. He's a fun player to watch. The same with Shea. I just don't. And you mentioned the Rockets. The Rockets are a fun team to watch. You watch them, and anybody can be going off on that team. And you're right. Nobody's mentioning them. They're not. And I think part of it is that there's not a superstar on the Rockets yet. So there's not. Who do they kind of promote?
Yeah.
They promote Jalen Green, but then he follows up a 30-point game with a 9-point game. So what does the NBA do with that? You promote Amon Thompson after he hits his game winner against the Celtics, and then he follows it up with like a good performance, but like a 10, 9, and 8 performance, and so it's, so I get it, but it's weird that we're the media is talking Lakers Warriors for the West and not like OKC and Houston. It's weird.
So is it you think so there's no chance with the Thunder right now? You take a look at the standings here. The Clippers is the A seed. You think the Thunder? There's no chance that they're ripe for the upset. You think they have a pretty breezy path to at least the Western Conference Finals minimum? Is that kind of what I'm feeling from you?
I do. As a Rockets fan, I'm hoping the Rockets are the second or third seed, so they don't have to face them until then. Um, uh, so I think OKC is. I think they're the best team in the NBA. And I think they're battle proven. I don't think this stuff about playoff stuff. I just don't see it. It's not like there's some team that has never been to the playoffs. They're ready. They're ready to go to the finals and win it.
I think I was on that bandwagon, I'll be honest with you. But I think just seeing the rest of the teams, I think they are pretty inferior. They have lots of other weaknesses that I thought, especially with the Lakers in particularly, they might be able to overcome. But I just think now, just seeing how Luka played the other night, I don't think they have too much of a shot there. And I think with the Nuggets, with Jokic, they're just pushing them too hard. And I think the team lacks a lot of depth compared to the Thunder. I think Houston's unproven. I think those are kind of my concerns in terms of kind of a serious playoff situation. But I think with the Thunder, I think you're right. I've kind of changed my mind on that in terms of them being the preeminent favorite. And I would be surprised if we see kind of. I'm trying to remember the Mavericks. The Warriors. That's right. It was that year. In terms of that huge upset, I don't foresee that happening here. Um, so moving on to the East, I'm curious your thoughts. The Cavaliers. I mean, that's another team that's again not talked about, but they have 61 wins. I mean, and they have really. I don't think the Celtics are going to be able to catch them. And this ending standings here. Kind of your thoughts on the Eastern Conference. The Knicks, another solid season, third seed. If you take a look, the Cavaliers, Celtics, Knicks, Pacers have all secured playoff spots. And then you have the Bucks, Pistons, Magics, Hawks, and Heat. And interestingly enough, it's so weird because you take a look at the Heat in particular. You thought their season was over with Jimmy Butler leaving, but they're going to be in playoff contention, as well as the Bulls. I mean, I've dismissed them as being irrelevant, despite Josh Giddey hitting, performing pretty well. So, kind of your thoughts on just the East, and is there any teams that excite you? Do you think the Knicks fare any better this year compared to last year, or the Pacers? Kind of your overall thoughts on the East.
Yeah, it's funny because I was ready for let's talk about Pacers first. I was ready to write them off, right? But I mean, Tyrese is like peaking at exactly the right time. He's putting up some insane numbers. Like 2010 with zero turnover games. I mean, that's impressive. And Rick Carlisle's a proven coach. Um, uh, Another team that really intrigues me, Justin, is the Knicks. And it's because I think Tibbs teams tend to overperform in the playoffs. Um, I mean, look at some of those wounded Bulls teams that managed to perform well. So I kind of feel like the Knicks have a shot at really making a run for the Eastern Conference Finals. Um, no matter who they get. I think there's a lot of power on that team. Um, uh, uh, so we'll see, but that's those are two teams that really intrigue me, are the Pacers and Knicks. I mean, obviously, I feel like the Celtics are probably the team to beat, even despite the stuff with the Cavaliers. I've watched enough Donovan Mitchell Utah Jazz playoff games to not really uh just he's not a playoff riser. So um I'm not, they could get the Eastern Conference Finals. I just don't see them making the finals over Boston or New York.
So was you bring up Donovan Mitchell? That's interesting. So they're the number one seed. This is optimal in terms. I would say, correct me if I'm wrong, this is a better situation in Utah. So if he fumbles the bag here, where does he go for here? I mean, if your other teams, and let's say, we have a couple of years of this where the Cavaliers underperform in the playoffs. If you're another team that you're looking at him, and when he becomes a free agent, like I mean, how does he fit? I mean, do you want this guy ultimately as your number one? Like, kind of, if he can't get it done in this scenario with an East, that I wouldn't call it like it's not as weak as in years past, but still not the strongest conference in the world. And especially with the wins here, you would expect with 61 wins, a finals appearance. I think that was the expectation. And if he's the one that is the catalyst for them not doing that, where is he really fit as one of the top players in the NBA? I mean, that's a huge red flag against him. I mean, this is it. I mean, in terms of having everything playing to his favor. So
Yeah, Justin, I think he's a number two option on a championship team.
mm,
I think he's a number two. I think like Damian Lillard, he's
yeah,
a number two option on a champion. He's a undersized scoring guard. Um, Traditionally those guys don't age well, although Steph is kind of bucking the trend there. But traditionally those guys don't age well. I mean, I think he needs if he doesn't stay in Cleveland, or if someone in Cleveland doesn't develop into a number one, um, I think they're going to always struggle with him being the number one guy.
no,
And so he needs a team where he's the number two guy.
no, that makes sense. I want to ask you any observations on like the worst teams in the NBA, teams that are tanking. The Wizards, they're last. Hornets, they're enjoying them. They're at the 14th seed. You take a look at the West. You mentioned the Jazz earlier. They've been struggling. The Pelicans, the Spurs. I think they had a chance, but then Wemby, he was out for the rest of the season. I kind of looking at the Pelicans. This just popped into my mind about Zion. What happens with him? Where do we go with him from here? I mean, we're talking about the face of the leap. This guy was, I think, given that kind of preemptive pedestal, and it has dissolved, and the Pelicans being one of the worst teams in the NBA. So, where do they go with Zion from here?
I don't know. It's such a weird because when he plays, he's really good.
Yeah,
Right?
I
Like he's a
agree.
top player in the
Yeah,
league when he plays. But it's getting him on the court that's the struggle. Now, I think if they were in contention right now for a playoff spot, he'd be playing. I think they're sitting him for you know on purpose so they can tank because they've lost just about every player that any casual fan would recognize the name of.
yeah.
Um, so I would say I don't know what the trade market would look like for him, and I don't know that if it almost feels like at this point with that contract they'd have to, if they traded him, they'd have to give up first to trade him. So it's not even worth it at that point. I think if that's the case, you continue the tank and try to rebuild through the draft, and then either trade him a little bit later, um, and get next to nothing, but at least you don't have to give anything away. Um, but until he proves he can play a season, I just don't think the market is there for him.
No, I totally agree. Um, I want to touch on a couple of more subjects and then we'll wrap it up. That's the Phoenix Suns, and particularly just everything going on with Kevin Durant. We had this kind of discussion before with just Durant being on these kind of snake bitten teams and his legacy, but Suns definitely underperforming just with their roster, the expectations. Where does this team go from here? There's been all kinds of things talked about with Bradley Beal, Devin Booker. He's the mainstay, and then you have Durant there. The owner. Where do you kind of put this team in the future? I mean, I would say compared to other teams, they have general excuses why they are terrible. But the Suns do not. They have their full roster, and yet they're performing this way. And especially other teams, it's not like they're knocking them dead in front of them. So, where do the Suns go from here?
I, I would I would hate to be general manager of the Suns because I don't know. I mean, it was revealed that the Rockets and Suns had mutual interest in trading Kevin Durant. I am assuming the asking price was high. I'm also assuming that the Rockets were kind of, this season was always going to be a wash for the Rockets. Let's see what we've got. Let's make the playoffs. Let's see what we're lacking and then go get it this summer if we need to. Um, for the Suns, I'm thinking, what do you? I mean, what are you going to get for an aging Kevin Durant who can still score, but let's be clear here. He's not the 35 point a night Kevin Durant. He's a little slower. And there are now questions about, is he kind of a locker room cancer? I, I don't know, Justin. I don't know. I mean, it's the only player they have that they could get anything for is their youngest player, Devin Booker. Um, so do you go the full rebuild route and just, you know, send KD to the Rockets for a couple of players, but get your picks back? Um, I mean, I can tell you what, if that Phoenix pick ends up in the top three, that's not happening. You will take that top three pick and end up with, Flag, Bailey, or, Harper, or whoever, Um, uh, so I don't know what you do there. It's, Booker would get a lot of interest from some teams for sure. Um, a lot of teams would be interested in adding him. Um, uh, Bradley Beal's not going anywhere because he refuses to go anywhere and he has a no trade clause. And there's no winning team that wants to take him on because he's done. He doesn't look good. He's always injured, and when he does play, he is not aged well. So I think I remember when that trade happened, Justin. I was like, "What are they thinking? What is this trade?" Um, uh, I get the moving off from Chris Paul, I guess, but I don't get this trade. Um, so and even the KD trade seemed kind of weird to me.
Agreed.
They've just been to the finals. Um, you know, great young players. It's like, make some changes in the fringes and see what happens, you know? Uh, and they didn't do that. So
No, totally agree.
yeah. Well, I mean, what do you think? What would you do if you were the Suns?
I don't know. I just think they kind of gambled and going all in on this lineup, and it's failed miserably. I mean, it's not even like they are, fifth to eighth, which I think would still be a disappointment. I mean, they're. I think I'm trying to think with the play-in tournament. Is it the 11th seed or the 10th? Right? Are they like barely in it, or
They're not. They are
they're
not
not?
in
So
it.
it's a 10th. So it's nine. It goes all the way to yeah. They're not in it. So, I mean,
I mean,
Matt,
they need
it's
Sacramento to lose, and they need Dallas to lose and they need to win to make
yeah.
the play in. To make the play in, you
I
know.
think it's just a surefire. As we had this discussion before, like I think Durant. I mean, he'll get in as a Hall of Famer easily. But I would say if this it goes on the track of this, he's probably gonna be one of the most disappointing Hall of Famers there's ever been. I mean, with this guy's potential, this guy's ability, I understand the championships he's won, but I just feel this his NBA career has just been mired in disappointment. And I think this is kind of might be the coup de grace in terms of this current failure here. I don't know. I don't know what the Suns do, to be honest. I'm not sure. I think, yeah, and they kind of really put themselves in a bind with you, like you mentioned with Bradley Beal with a no trade clause. I mean, I mean, what can you do till his contract's up? So yeah, it's unfortunate.
It's funny because talk about Kevin Durant and his legacy. It I think people like James Harden now more than they like Kevin Durant. You know, and you see people like, look at James Harden leading the Clippers into the playoffs and doing his stuff at 35. And like he's a good team guy, good team leader. It's like what and it's a complete flip flop, and it's sad to see. Um, I think maybe he's a guy who has kind of gotten in his own way.
Yeah, no, totally agree. Last topic, real quick. We didn't get your thoughts on this, but if you don't have anything to add, that's cool. I think it's been taught to you to death, but I think it'd be unfair if we didn't get your thoughts on the whole LeBron Stephen A. Smith deal. Just kind of your thoughts on what transpired. I mean, it was so crazy because Matt and I were talking about that, and then it escalated when LeBron going at Pat McAfee's podcast, and that just blew up because Windhorse is involved and all these other people are involved. So now you just have it's just gone in a wholly different direction. So if you have any thoughts, I would love to hear it just with that whole controversy.
Yeah, I get it. I get responding to the criticism of like, I mean, Stephen A. Smith's basically, saying you're a bad dad. And I get that. No father wants to hear that, especially when you've gone out of your way to be a good dad, right? I I don't think anybody realistically thinks LeBron's a bad parent. Um, did he put Bronny in a situation where, he was doomed to failure? I don't know. I think for a late second round pick, I don't think Bronny's been bad. I mean, most of them don't make the league. He's done pretty well in the G League here and there. He's shown some promise lately. I I think he needs time. I think he could potentially be a pretty good rotation player in the NBA. Um, not maybe a first guy off the bench, but like a guy who could come in and play defense and that kind of stuff, like an Aaron Holiday kind of guy. Um, I, I, but I, I mean, if Bronny flames out in the NBA, it's not like he's going to be living on Skid Row. His dad's a billionaire,
Yeah.
who believes in passing on generational wealth, and building generational wealth. He's going to be fine. So I don't think. No, pardon me. So when I look at, first of all, let me just say this: Stephen A. Smith is a clown. He's a clown. He's saying things to get. He's always said things to rile people up, to create controversy, because he's a clown and he thinks that that's what gets people to pay attention to him. Um, and LeBron, I honestly think should have just let it go. But we all know that, LeBron, while not as thin skinned to say like KD, LeBron is a little thin skinned and can, you know, poke back at people who poke at him. He takes it personally. I get it, and that's part of what drives him and has made him such a great player. I mean,
Great.
arguably he's the GOAT. Um, and so I, I, I don't know. Hmm, I think, I think the initial wrong is Stephen A. Smith. Um, but I think Braun may have overreacted a little bit, and made it bigger than it needed to be.
I think he played into Stephen A's hands. I don't understand why you're confronting him in a public setting. I mean, even I do agree with Stephen A on this. Like the footage, and I don't think this is a coincidence. After they had that confrontation, like LeBron is straight looking at a camera afterwards. Like I don't know, maybe people are making a big deal out of it as it is, but it just seems to me, why are you doing this in public? And then why are you going to Pat McAfee's show to even address this? It's just you're feeding this monster of Stephen A. Smith. You're giving him what he wants. I mean, you're making him like the hottest story in America. I mean, and especially that's tough to do with all the political climate now. Yeah, you
Right.
boosted him in terms of being, arguably the hottest topic on social media and just in America in general. And LeBron, I mean, if you really hate this guy, why you facilitated that and you continue to do that with your appearance on Pat McAfee's show? Even though I do think with Stephen A. Smith, I do think he has some good points in terms of, I mentioned this before, just with Bronny's legacy, like that is going to be overshadowed because LeBron orchestrated him being in the league without him earning it. And that's always going to be a black mark unless Bronny just becomes this legendary all-star. But I think that's always going to follow him unfairly to him. And that was LeBron's fault. At the same time, I just think you're right with Stephen A. Smith. I mean, that's what this guy does, right? I mean, I follow his career from Fox Sports the first time, not when he got fired from ESPN and ended up there the second time, but the first time, his like original radio show that was only 30 minutes, that I was listening to. Like, I always thought, this guy's going to have a career just because he has a loud mouth. And at the time, I was really intrigued by him just in terms of he had a different flavor on the game compared to what I was listening to. And I was in high school when I first heard him. But I just think now it's kind of devolved. Into him, just a lot of hot takes. I don't think he's as bad as Skip Bayless, but I think in some cases he kind of approaches that. I just personally, to me, just because I'm a combat sports fan, his takes on combat sports are insane. You think he's bad, if you think he's terrible in basketball, don't let him talk about it. Two people throwing hands, he's worse. So,
Oh wow.
yeah, he is much worse. If you
I
question his basketball knowledge, but
I mean, didn't he have a thing with where he couldn't even name any Detroit Pistons players, and then another thing where he
yeah,
said congratulations to Chauncey Billups for coaching them so well.
right,
I mean, it's like I get making a mistake. I mean, you and I might make a mistake, but we're also not paid to watch
exactly.
80 games for each team. We're not, for him to be in that position as ESPN's head basketball guy, their big guy, and to not know who's coaching the Pistons, an up and coming team, a team I'm actually excited about, or who any of the players are. It's insane. Uh, eh, One thing you brought up, it kind of made me think something, Justin, was this LeBron looking in the camera. I mean, let's be clear here. LeBron is also likes the spotlight, so this also is an opportunity for him to become a big story and take away some spotlight from some younger players that might be usurping his dominance as the NBA story. So
That's interesting because is that the case though? We just mentioned though with the NBA kind of ecosystem and the spear is still in his pocket. I mean, you take a look at the internet. Even when Wemby was playing, I mean, Wemby was. Correct me if I'm wrong. Wemby was popular, but it wasn't like he was the talk of the league in terms of when he was active. And I just feel with a lot of like you always hear these things about Tatum and Brown, like they're boring or they just whatever strikes against them. It just seems like there's just all these weird like red marks against kind of the new stars of the league, and it's just usually LeBron and Steph. LeBron and Steph, it's always about them. So, I mean, and I don't think I disagree with you either. I don't know why he's paranoid about that because he has the whole NBA in his pocket in terms of getting the media spotlight. They're firmly on his side. So,
but that's how he does it. I
yeah,
mean, doing stuff like this stunt with Stephen A. Smith is how he keeps his name out there.
fair. And
If
it's a
he doesn't
shame.
do
Yeah,
that, nobody talks about him. Maybe they talk about Steph that night, or they talk about Luca. But
yeah.
he has everybody talking about him just where he wants everyone.
Well, I don't know if I totally agree with that because I mean, look how old he is and look how much he's performing. I mean, it's amazing. I mean, just in terms of what he's done and his age and everything is pretty miraculous. It's a shame that's being overshadowed by just this antics with Stephen A. Smith. It's unfortunate for sure.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I just think sometimes you do anything you can to get your new. No, there's no such thing as bad press, right?
Fair.
Unless you're Russell Brand. Um, so
Jeez.
yeah.
Yeah, brutal. That's going to table our discussion unless you had anything else on your mind, Allan, that you want to get off your chest as we head towards the playoffs.
I I think this next couple of weeks is going to be super exciting as teams fight for seeding. I urge everyone to tune in, watch as many games as you can, and then I think the playoffs and the play-in tournament is going to be really, really awesome. I think we're headed for a great postseason.
No, totally agree. Before we get out of here, I want to give a couple of plugs. First, Ballislife, always appreciate them. Our podcast on their podcast network, so truly appreciate it. And check out our archive. We have the CEO of USA Basketball, Jim Tooley, not only going over their latest book, but also going over just reflecting on the Paris Olympics. We have an interview with Jim Lampley, just his background in sports and why he decided to commentate on boxing and not basketball. That's kind of interesting there. We have Jeff Triberde. He wrote a book about the Blue Bloods in college basketball. Chris Myers, Tim Alcorn, Dave Johnson, who is the commentator for the Washington Wizards. Interesting interview. And then we have this behind the scenes of recent documentaries of Celtic City and Court of Gold, both on Max and on Netflix, respectively. So go check that out. If you disagree with our opinions, let us know. If you agree, let us know. Email us, hoopsologypod@gmail.com. So for Allan, I'm Justin. And for Matt, congratulations to him as well. We will see you next time. Appreciate you joining us on another episode of Hoopsology's In the Lab.
Thank you, everyone.